Hi, welcome to The Cultural Barrier by Changing Suits. My name's Bal.
And my name's Taj.
We have now hit the third episode in 2026. As always exciting to record and actually do this quite a fun part of the job, to be fair. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about ticking boxes. Now, when we're talking about ticking boxes, we're talking about, in our personal lives and professional lives. And are we hitting all of those milestones that our parents, our kids are expected to hit? So Taj, what do you think? Should we firstly have this whole tick box exercise?
I think we should, in regards to my tick box, is that I wear the same clothes as you, and I have ticked that box today.
Okay, that's great. That's perfect. Okay, yes. And
because I know you hate it when someone wears the same clothes as you.
Okay, so let's take it back to life. What do you think about tick boxing, the tick box exercise? Should we have it?
In the sense it drives you and motivates you. I think in an Asian household, the tick box is for when we're growing up. You get education, you get married, you have kids, and you die.
So I was going to say, so we're hitting pretty much all of them. We just haven't got to the die bit. We're good. We're going good.
And not that you need to tick that box, because that's going to happen when it's going to happen. But yeah,
I mean, two things are sure in life, right? Taxes and death. So we should be okay with that.
But let's concentrate on the education part of stuff, because I have been talking about that a lot lately. So we've seen in the South Asian community, we like to push our kids into education.
Yeah.
It could be 11 plus, for example. That's an exam that's sat to get to grammar school, and pushing your kids to do that because you want them to go to a good school that offers more opportunities. It doesn't mean it's a good school. It might just be the right fit for your child.
Mm-hmm.
And you push your child, and there might be a few tears on the way, but that child will thank you later on. But to someone outside the community, that might be seen as, oh my God, why are you pushing the child so much? They don't want it. You're breaking them. But I know when my child is broken, and my child wasn't broken throughout those stages.
Yeah, but the argument is, right, a lot of people turn around and say, we're expected to, I know you're talking about education, we're expected to get a good education, get married at a certain age, have kids at a certain age, die at a certain age, apparently, right? But people look back, especially in our generation, where they're like, what was it right for our parents to have had those expectations? And that's a really interesting question, because you've just said it yourself. You've now come to the point where you've pushed both of the kids, right, to do the 11 plus. And it's not an easy process, right? There are tears along the way. But the question is, was it worth it? And do you think that we should be pushing on that hard?
See, when we look back at how we grew up, we're like, oh, our parents done it like this. We're not going to do it like this. But quite a lot of the people from my generation have said, actually, even though we've said that, we're still reliving the pattern that our parents have. But if you look to the roots of why that's being done, about why we're pushing our young people to get educated, I think it makes sense. You want them to have something that's tangible. Would it be tangible, would you say? Something that you can move on with, basically.
Something tangible, like
something that you can hold.
You can hold, right? Yeah.
So something
with your degree certificate. I mean, you might get that degree certificate, won't do nothing with it later, but you got the degree certificate to say, hey.
But you're learning skills. For example, if you go into accountancy, you might do it doesn't have to necessarily be that you go to uni, but you will do the course, but you might use that skill, for example, in a business or in another setting, but you will use the skills that you're learning rather than sitting in front of the TV and doing nothing.
Yeah, but then do you remember a few years ago when apprenticeships first started and everyone was like, oh, BTEC? It was pretty much the same thing from what I remember, right? The good old days of what the education system was, and GCSEs, A-star to C.
Why have those days gone? I don't understand. This number system is so annoying.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, when you listen to it on the news in regards to the GCSEs, they had to do the equivalent of, this is what a 9 is, this is what an 8 is.
That's because we don't know what just keep it to what it is.
Exactly. But anyway, that's just
a lot of
Okay, but basically, I was listening to some news yesterday about apprenticeships, and there's not enough apprenticeship places. Now, when we were growing up and the apprenticeship process started, it was like, oh, if you weren't smart enough,
Yeah,
right, then you do the BTEC
apprenticeship.
and
Yeah.
apprenticeships. Whereas now, firstly, education at university is so expensive, right? It's like, well, actually, is it worth it? You're about to leave university with a crazy amount of debt, right? Is it worth it? Especially when jobs are hard to find now. And now apprenticeship places, there's not very many of them. So there's a competition there. The government's changing the way people compete for the apprenticeship thing. So, like, is it worth doing a degree? That's the question. Like, we were always pushed to do a degree. Should that be a push
I
now?
mean, it looks nice on the mantelpiece, the picture, you in your gown, ready. It looks good. So maybe that's what we're doing it for the picture.
But then you can do that anyway. You can, get the
Yeah,
gown.
but it needs to be real. You can do anything. You can pretend to be the president in a picture. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't mean you are it. You have to actually have the thing behind it.
Right. There was something I saw actually on just yesterday on social media. So there's changes within, whatever's going on politically. But one thing that was said, someone had called in and said, I don't think this person should go to be prime minister because they're not educated enough.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's just like, and it did make me think though, hold on. It made me think, well, actually, is that person right? If someone hasn't hit a certain education point, should they be going in for prime minister? Right? And it's the same sort of thing. Like, at what point are you qualified to be a prime minister? You don't need to actually have any qualifications for that job anyway, right? So, what's your thought on it?
I think to be prime minister, you need to have some sort of education because you're dealing with so many different strands, the economics of the country and things like that. All right, to a certain extent, lived experience is important. Like Lord Alan Sugar, he's done well with himself.
Yes.
Uh,
Someone's watching The Apprentice quite clearly.
I was thinking, can I remember his name? But he's done well. So I don't know. That is a bit of a.
Because it's that whole lived experience thing. Now, with the work that we're doing, it's all about the lived experience. It's not about the education piece of it. It's the fact that they're going to know what's good for them because
But if
they
you
live that
saw a
life.
CV, actually, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to go contradict myself as well. If you saw a CV and it said, I've done this education, this education, this education, I've done a master's, don't you immediately, not second thoughts, but immediately think, oh, this person's clever?
Okay, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Initially.
Let me say something. If I saw a master's on there that had nothing, the first thing I'd think was, and if they were Asian in my generation, they didn't want to get married, so they did a master so they could delay it for a year. And that is totally what happened when we were going through the education system.
Yeah.
I could have done it as
I
well.
agree with that as well. But wait, now going back to what I just said, if you saw a CV and you saw masters on it, because I've changed my mind on this, but initially I used to think if you saw a masters and you think, oh, the person's got a brain, they'll be able to do,
So
the
our
work.
parents were always like, either got mastered out, this person's got masters, that's what that means in Punjabi. And you'd be like, oh my God, they've got a master's, and that's cool. Then afterwards, when you went through it, it's like, that person didn't want to get married. That's why they got the master's, got you. Okay. But then if they've got a PhD, for example, then that's another level though, isn't it? Because now they can use doctor.
That's like hitting
Um,
top dollar.
yeah, but that's fair enough because it's actually part of the job. I mean, a PhD essentially is the same as an apprenticeship, really, at a higher level, obviously, right?
Well, I've seen even people with masters. I haven't got a master's, I haven't got a PhD. I'm not very academic. I have got a degree, but I'm not academic. I done it because I didn't want to get married, to be honest. And I was like, what should I do with my life? I need to look busy. I can't sit at home. Otherwise, they're going to make me, the parent, are going to make me do cooking and cleaning. So I need to be out of the house.
Yeah.
What can I do? Yes, I will go to uni.
Yeah.
What was my point?
I don't know. The whole PhD and master's thing.
Okay. But if you see that, yeah, you think, yes, that person's clever. But what I've seen in real life is clever doesn't automatically mean you got common sense.
Oh no, I agree with that.
And I've seen that a lot. And having masters on a CV, you need to question, is that a real master's? Where's it coming from? And did the person actually learn anything, or did they just blag it and get through? Because I have now seen quite a lot of people that have done their masters, and I'm questioning, did you?
Yeah, but hold on, right? Let's go back. In regards to this, I get it. We did the degree, I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I did biomedical science. I didn't enjoy the research part of it. I enjoyed the science part of it. I just didn't enjoy the actual what the job would lead into. So maybe instead of at that point looking at, oh, they've done a master's, they've done a PhD. I mean, PhD, I think fair enough. You're
That's
going
another
into,
level. Yeah.
well, it's a job, isn't it? But what was their job afterwards is what I'd question. And that's something in our generations, our parents didn't really do. That was the whole tick box exercise, wasn't it? Make sure they get a degree, which is fair enough because they didn't have that privilege, I suppose, of having that opportunity to get a degree, even if they were very well capable. They just didn't have the opportunity.
It depends if you can't blanket everyone with that, because some people, when they did come over, they did get degrees and stuff like that. It's people that worked in the factories that we're talking about that didn't go and get those degrees.
No, that's not true either, though, because if you look at people even out in, like, if I talk to even my mother-in-law, she's got a degree. Our boy's got a degree, for example. They've got
Yeah,
BSs and BAs. Those
yeah,
are degrees, right?
yeah.
But
But
then
they didn't
obviously
do anything with them.
they didn't use them, but that's because they were moving to different countries, or boy was in
As women, yeah, they
they
did.
they were at home, but they did get those degrees nonetheless. So
But that question, wait, saying that they got the degree, so why wouldn't you think that they went and got a job? I suppose it was when they got married, it was like you stay at home and bring up the kids. Because
yeah,
why else would you get educated? Not just to put on the mantelpiece, you'd want something more with the education, wouldn't you?
yeah, but then if you look at the people that did get educated, it was usually the younger one that got educated because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
older
yeah.
ones were bringing in India or whatever, they were bringing up the family and helping bring up the family, and that's why the younger ones got the
Should
opportunity.
we go? Yeah, should we go backtrack on what we were asking initially, the tick box thing? Why is it so important, or is it important, the tick box? Why? What do you think the tick box thing's important? Because we've gone on about education, but what about the other stages of the tick box of a South Asian life? Are
Well,
they important?
let's talk about marriage because obviously that's one of the biggest tick boxes, right? I mean,
I say that, yeah.
well, I got married at 27, and there was always, as soon as you left uni, um, I was the youngest, so it was a case of, well, get a job because at that point the divorce rates were starting to increase. So actually, you need to be financially stable, which I completely agree with and still agree with. Um, but then I was 27 when I got married because life just got a bit busy with work, right? But now the sort of average age of people having kids, as we know, is actually increasing. So a lot of people are having their kids in their 40s. Now, years ago, we know that it would have been in their 20s. And the question then arises, well, would I get my kids married off when they're like 16? Not that it would be 16, because obviously that's GCSEs, they have to get to the degree, right? But it is that concept of, at what age would I want them to get married? Would I force them to?
Or do you want them to get married is the other question.
So in regards to the child thing, I think that's a separate question from the marriage thing. So the child thing, I do get why people should be having kids earlier. I mean, regardless of, this is my personal view, and I know there's going to be a lot of people saying no, we don't agree, and fair enough. But from a biological point of view, our bodies are younger. It's easier to do. I would find it really difficult now. I mean, if I did get pregnant and have a child, I'd get on with it and I'd do it. Of course, there's people that do it. It's just easier when you're in your 20s. We know that. So having kids is, I think, the sort of thing you should be doing that at an earlier age.
Did you just
Well,
say should be doing that? Why?
no, should be doing, if you want kids, hold on. If you want kids, then do it at an earlier age, only because biologically it's just better than doing it at 40s, 50s. It's easier. That's not to say that people who do decide to do it later are wrong. I totally get it, especially now, there's so many problems with fertility, and actually people are consciously making that decision of they don't want kids in earlier ages. I get that too. I mean, finance and freedom, that's massive, and that's something you don't think about if you have kids earlier.
Yeah. I think now we're at a stage when we were younger, now I can say we because you're 40.
Yeah,
When
go on.
we were younger, it was a case of need to get married, blah, blah, blah. But now I think there's a bit more of an acceptance if people don't want to get married, if they can't find the right partner. Because people are getting, I've spoken to so many people, I'd say in this past month, that either divorced or that have been looking for a partner,
Yeah.
and accepting that maybe it just might not happen, and their families are accepting of it. And I think it's happening more and more because of the divorce rates and because people are worried that they don't, before it was a case of relatives would help you set up with someone, a rishta, so a marriage. People don't want to do that anymore because they're worried that there might be a breakup, and the backlash would be, oh, you're the one who set us up, so it's your fault.
But you know what? I think I think culturally, so the social sort of sphere of the fact that there is increased divorce rates, there are big problems. Women are more financially independent. That is obviously all leading into the fact that people do have the option of whether they want to get married or not. But when we were going through it, one thing that I found was until we did the marriage thing and then moved on to having kids, life was a bit stuck of that's all you were thinking about.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like now that that bit's done, that part of the tick box is done, we can sort of think of, what we want to do in our spare time.
Well,
For
actually, yeah, saying that,
career.
these past few weeks, I've been saying to my husband, because I've been bumping into people that have got separated for whatever reason, and or people that are looking for a partner. I've been saying to my husband, we're so lucky that we're together. And he's like, oh, really? We fight like cat and dog. But I'm like, just be quiet, get on with it. I don't want to go through this process again because it is so stressful, to the point I remember people and our peers and ourselves that were going through it, you could see the signs of stress.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. People's hair were falling out. Literally, that's how stressful it was.
But I think that was, and I think I touched on this on one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, you did.
I think even our parents have realised how much pressure was put on our generation to get married. And was it a good idea? We don't know. But does it mean that people shouldn't get married? The other part of the question is obviously you don't need to get married to have kids, right?
What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, it's different.
But it's not accepted. I think it might happen here and there,
Yeah.
but it's not accepted in the community. I'm not saying that I don't accept it, but I wouldn't encourage it. I wouldn't say to my kids, because to my kids, they think that married, even though they've done sex education, they must be having a laugh with me. But they think you get married, then you have kids, and that's all it's done. That's all it is. And I know that they know that's not how it happens because they've done the sex education and stuff like that. I think they play on that, but I'm not going to encourage them to have kids out of marriage.
So what is the ultimate goal for these tick boxes though?
Although, wait, going back on that,
Yeah.
at one stage I was thinking about not getting married and adopting. So
Okay, and there we are, right? So why is it okay for
me
you
to do it and not others? Because it's me, it's my life.
But do you know what the issue with that is? And I know some people that have decided to have kids without being married and they're Asian, right? And they did have, backlash from the community, which I don't agree with either.
I would not judge anyone for it because that is not fair, and it's their life. It's up to them how they're going to do it.
But then what do you think? So the reason I asked what is the ultimate goal for the tick box part of it, because people can have kids without being married. We are in 2026, nothing wrong with that. But then why did our parents, and obviously technology's moved on, why did they think that it had to be through marriage, then you have kids? And I know religiously that is the way, but let's put that to the side. But culturally, why is it important?
Generally they thought that, but they were going to allow me to go and adopt as well. I was actually discussing with my parents, to be honest. So I think that they were beyond their age, like thinking, more forward thinking, to be honest. But generally, it was a case of you get married, you got the husband and the wife, and it's like this, ideal family. You can, be with someone, talk to someone, because it must be a lonely journey, like being alone and bringing up a child, because it is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard, and it's nice to bounce that idea of, should we get rid of our child and not them live them in, yeah, that woke you up.
Okay.
Should we send them to this school, or should they do this, or should they, you can have a little argument about it, or discussion, as we like to call it.
You can see how it works in your household. It's just all an argument. It's not a discussion. Yes.
But it's nice to have that someone to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can say that you can talk to a friend, but it's not the same thing.
But then do you not now look back and think, look, there was an ultimate goal as to why we were pushed to do certain things, whether it is the education, because then obviously the thinking there was if you get a good education, to be fair, I think it was all about getting the degree to say, yes, you've hit a certain milestone. The job after that didn't matter what you got as long as you had money coming in, right?
No, I would say it was a case of get a job so you can boast to the community that my child is a doctor. Because our parents don't actually know what we still do. So I don't know what they go around telling in the community.
They don't know
They
what
hear good things, and I think they nod along, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know what these girls do."
No, it's fine. I
Carry
mean,
on with it.
but this is the thing. What is the ultimate goal? Even with marriage, you've said it's about companionship. Someone to, as we grow old, you can have those ideas.
Yeah, but we know the core reason of why people are saying get married, have kids. It's because, to some extent, quite a lot of people in the South Asian community are religious, and religious encourages to have kids and procreate. You look very puzzled.
No,
Come
I
on.
agree. Hold on, chill out. I agree with that, and I said yes, I agree with that. But I'm talking about the social aspect of it as well. You've got a companion for the rest, well, hopefully for life, as long as you don't kill each other. You get on, right? If you're that lucky, right? And nowadays it is very hard to even find that. But even having kids, it is a case of, well, we were encouraged after degree to then start looking at the marriage thing because there is a biological thing, and I personally think that's the right way of looking at it, regardless of how society is starting to think about it. But actually, even having kids is a case of it's the next stage of your life. But then, is it the next stage of your life?
I think, when your peers are moving on and they're getting married, you feel
Yeah.
like you need to go the same way. It's about the people that you surround yourself with. If you're going and hanging around with people that are traveling the world, then you think that's the next stage of your life. And the next stage is, I don't know, climbing some big mountain or something. That's the next stage.
You couldn't remember what any
No,
mountain,
I got
Kilimanjaro or something like that. You're like,
I did remember that, but I was like, am I going to say it right?
right, okay.
So it's about the people that you hang around with. But if you're surrounded by a family, for example, that all friends that are getting married, having kids, and they're around roughly your age group, you think that's the next stage of your life.
That's interesting. That is I think I actually agree with that, because one thing I've found is obviously our kids are a certain age, but people that are then having kids later, it's the conversation's different. Like I've been through that.
You
I
get
don't.
bored, isn't it?
Yeah, because I enjoyed, when, I gave birth and talking about the labor story and how awful it was and bringing up kids and all this.
You sound like it's a drag.
But this is it. Now, looking back, having those conversations, like, oh, I've done this.
But it's like, yeah, you want to be around the stages of life you're at. For example, when I was having kids, I didn't breastfeed. So I found it really hard to be around conversations. So I would eject myself out of those conversations. And in my world, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's about what you feel comfortable with as well. Because at the moment, I can say, for example, or I see a baby, I'm like, oh, that's very cute. Not that's very cute. The child's very cute.
It. Yes.
I hold them for about 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, I'm done, kind of thing. Because I just don't feel. I mean, sometimes I'm like, I won't mind having a baby, and I'm like, no. And my daughter's like, no, you're not, because you're going to make me wake up in the middle of the night. And I'm like,
No, mine too are like, I was laying down, they're like, can you have another baby? I'm like, no. And then they're like, no, we really want another brother. He said, I want a brother. She said, I want a sister. I'm like, okay, how's this? I'll have twins, one boy, one girl, and they'll be my favourite child.
yeah, that's what I do as well.
But they were fine with that as well. I was like, no, I'm not having
Oh
it.
God, what are they going through?
I
Because
don't
I
know.
say to my son, shall I have another baby? And he's like, okay. And I go, then you can't be my baby. And he's like, actually, forget it.
Isn't it? But this, I think, again, it's that stage of life. Now, we made a conscious decision to have kids quite close in age together. In fact, I was talking to someone yesterday about this as well. And that the whole thing was so I didn't have to do the nappy thing again, because that's such a pain, right?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, go on, carry on with that.
And what I was going to say is, so the question of whether I'd have kids again, I probably wouldn't, because I just want freedom. it's a different stage now. I don't have to pick up a child to put them in a car or do this. They
Yeah.
run in and do their own thing. It's and I just want to sort of focus on something different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Now, when I see someone with a child, I'm like, thank God I don't have to do that.
But this is no, but then that's the stage of their life. But the other
Yeah.
thing is, there were sacrifices made to do that as well.
I was just
You
going
know,
to go into that. Yeah. What kind of sacrifices were made then?
well, then if we look at, when I had my oldest child, I did have to make a conscious decision, work-wise, whether I took certain positions, and then the decision was no, I wouldn't take those positions because I wanted to bring up my child. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day actually, and it was two different parts of my past careers, and everyone looked so stressed, and I'm sitting there because it was
Oh, you remember you saying, yeah.
and I'm shutting my head off on my child, and I'm pretty relaxed. And people have to do what they have to do. It's their path, and their whatever you decide to put your energy towards. But looking back, am I happy that I had decided not to take those paths? Right now, yes, but I could see myself taking on those positions again because now that part of my life is done.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think there's a lot of sacrifices for generally all women, no matter what.
And men, less so. I agree, less so. And this is something you brought up earlier, and I was like, oh no,
What did I bring up earlier? It sounds like it was clever.
not today. It was
20 years ago.
no, it was something about the fact that housework and stuff like that, and I actually defended. And then I thought about it afterwards. I'm like, actually, no, I do most of the housework. But then I know the husband would be like, well, I do X, Y, Z. It's not true. There's not that much. No, I'm joking. But it's the same thing here. That part of our lives, and for him, did mean that he couldn't do certain things, but it is more for women. You do have to sacrifice a lot more being.
I don't think my husband had to sacrifice that much. He's on the journey that he is, and he's continuing, and he hasn't stopped and thought, maybe, okay, we didn't move abroad, which he wanted to do because we stopped and we're like, the kids are holding us back kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that is okay, yeah, but I don't think he really cared, but he's carrying on soldiering forward. Whereas myself, I stopped. I had to bring up the kids. I had no one else to support me. So I had to bring up the kids. I didn't want my kids to go to, all right, they went for a childminder for about literally 2 hours, one of my children, the one that isn't the favourite one. Joke.
Yeah. Anyway.
And but otherwise,
can I say, once I met someone that, and I told you about this, and I cracked that joke because one of the kids were with them at a concert or something, right? And I was like, oh, this is obviously your favourite child, and they look like they were face like a slapped ass sort of thing, right? And I was like, it's a joke, but it was actually quite a funny joke. I was kidding, but anyway. And then they threw it back at me. They were like, so what, you have a favourite child as well? I was like, yeah, the one that doesn't piss me off at that point. That was my favourite. Duh. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
All right, the career thing. So I had to pause what I was doing. Not very much, but anyway, I had to pause it.
Yeah.
And then I had to bring up the children. And I did try to pick bits up. Sound like I'm a bin man or something. But try to do something so I didn't completely forget my path. Like I started getting back into education, which was a nightmare. But anyway, I'd upscaling and stuff like upscaling.
Yeah.
That worked the dream.
Someone loves their own jokes, isn't it? Like, wasn't that funny? Anyway, carry on.
And then after now the kids are a position that they can dress and feed themselves just about. So now I'm like, okay, now we've started our organisation. But it was, and in many cases, women.
Can I just say, there was a text message yesterday in the family group where your husband had put, there was a picture of kids doing housework. He was like, where do you get kids like this? And then I text, sorry, this is where I laugh at my own joke. I was like, when Taj gets a husband like that as well. Because I'd asked him for a bit of help just before.
Yeah, I heard.
It's fine. Anyway, carry on.
So going back, so women have to pause their life and they have to make sacrifices, and a lot of them.
Okay, so let's move on, because obviously, let's just very quickly summarize for me. Is it important to have that tick box exercise, even though when we were growing up, we were like, no, that's too much pressure. Even now, parents are saying, no, that was too much pressure. Is the tick box exercise correct to give
I
people
don't
in their
think we
life?
can call it tick box, because for me, I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do next. I want to do this, this, and this. So it's goals. I
Mm-hmm.
would say goals. Tick box has a negative connotation, I would say.
So then is it different because you're deciding your goals, right? Whereas when our parents were deciding goals for their kids,
Then it's a tick box.
then it was tick box. So then were they wrong?
No,
Tick
I'm
boxing.
not going to tell them that, am I?
But were they wrong? Because they
No,
don't they,
they weren't. I don't
they
think.
won't know how to put this podcast on, so it's fine. Say what you like about them. They ain't got a clue. It's fine. So were they wrong?
No, they weren't wrong, because I'm doing exactly the same thing.
Are you wrong?
No, I'm never wrong. What do you think? Do you think they were wrong?
I think it gives a bit of discipline. And I think, to be fair, from where our parents were and grandparents were, I think discipline is the biggest thing that we're lacking. And I think that is really bad. I think
I think the next generation are not all of them again. Like anything that we've
next
talked about,
generation.
yeah, not like, for example, the stuff that we've talked about, not every single South Asian will do, like not get married at 27, 28. Some people have to get are forced into getting married earlier, 16, 19, for whatever reason, for
Yeah,
the pressure, or they might want to. Just because we decided that we, wanted to stay in education, try to stay away from it, doesn't mean that everyone's doing that. Some people might not even get educated because they feel, for example, that their girls shouldn't get educated, or that they should get married because they might run off. Yeah, I know, a curveball there. Girls getting married off earlier because their parents think that they might run off. So it's like, get them married off so they don't go and run off with someone and tarnish the family name. Yes, it does still happen. It happens a lot.
that's it. I mean,
Yes.
I don't get out much, so I don't know what
Yes,
happens in the
it
real world.
does happen. Girls are forced into getting married earlier. They're taken away to other countries. And again, this doesn't happen in all the South Asian community. We're not all doing it.
What when they say, oh wait, I was going to say honor-based killing, but that's not
Yeah.
the word.
But
Is it?
again, honor-based killing isn't all South Asian. There's other communities that it happens in.
Yeah, and that's a conversation we'll leave because I think that's a massive topic in itself. So, okay, so we sort of do agree on the fact that tick box goals is okay. It's more okay if you decide it yourself rather than if your parents decide it. But then obviously we did go through stages where we would sort of go the opposite. We'd be like, you want us to do this, so I'll do the opposite just so that we could annoy our parents because we
Yeah,
didn't want
you
them.
all do that. I'm sure my kids are going to do that as well, and then I'll chuck them out the house.
What about
Oh, it really? That would be chucking
a
them
really
out.
harsh podcast? You're being really mean to the kids. I am going to show them this podcast.
Don't show them,
I am.
please.
And I'll be like, see, do you see why you should live with me? Right. Anyway, what about when the sort of that tick box, I am going to use the word, goes the opposite way and divorce? We've got things like fertility issues, a death of a partner.
That
What?
just throws that story Bollywood film out the window then, doesn't it? Because then that's when it hits and you realize that actually everything that you've believed would happen, this rose tinted glasses, isn't actually what it was made out to be. That no one prepares you for something that can go wrong along the journey. Is that because we like to think that life is all going to be hunky-dory, and that we aren't? Maybe we should be preparing our kids for, okay, life isn't going to be a tick box.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens, you need to learn how to cope with it as well. Coping strategies, I would say.
So resilience.
That's it. That's the word, resilience.
So then would what should we be doing in that case? Because this is a really serious topic. As health is getting poorer, right? It just is. I mean, I blame food, but that's another topic as well. But how do you prepare ourselves? Because we know that our parents or people that we know, our siblings, me before you, are going to pop off at some point, right?
That's going to happen.
How do you prepare for that? Because that
I
tick
think
box.
I think it's important that, for example, if someone passes away, that you don't shield your kids. Obviously, it's up to the individual parents or whatever. That you don't shield your kids from all those things that are happening. That they need to see that grieving that you're going through, and that they don't necessarily need to attend the funeral if they're too young or whatever. But they need to see that grieving process, and they need to see that loss does happen in life.
So then, do you think there should be a tick box for the things that we're not prepared for?
No, because that's not happy joy, is it? I think it's something
But
that
they're more likely to happen than even the tick boxes that
I
the
think
the tick boxes where they're positive, like what relatively, if you look at it like that, in the next stage of our lives, I don't know, other people wouldn't have gone through the same experiences. They're things that you have to make an effort for, right, to create those things to happen. Whereas the sort of negative aspect, where there's grieving, where all of these things, I'm saying negative, but actually, are they negative? That's a philosophical sort of question. But like grieving and I don't know, divorce and this, that, and the other. I mean, that's something that is a result of something that you hadn't chosen. So how do you
I
prepare
don't
for
think you
that?
need to consciously do the way. I suppose you don't sit there and say you're going to need to get married, you need to do this, but I think it needs to be brought into conversations that this may happen. Like, for example, we've got a lot of divorces in our family, so naturally that is a tick box that's been ticked. Like, all marriages don't
Oh,
last forever.
married, divorced, excellent. We're hitting all the
Yes, we're
targets.
hitting our goals.
Excellent.
That's naturally what's happened. Health issues, that's naturally. So it's almost like we didn't prepare to teach it, it just happened, and it's part of the parcel of what's been taught.
Mm. It's an interesting point, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because we're not prepared for these things.
but I think it's really important that we need to teach our young people and ourselves, not just our young people, about being happy and within yourself and accepting sometimes things happen and you need to learn how to ride the wave.
But do you just teach that, or it's just called the journey of life?
I think it's something that you need to talk about. Okay, this might happen, but it doesn't mean, like, for example, you might do, I'm going to go back to uni or whatever, and the career that you set out to be might not be the path that you go onto.
Mm.
It's not the end of the world, but everything happens for a reason. And I think that's really important that, for example, you might go this way, but that might be a better path for you. Maybe going the other way, it might have been that you were stressed out to death.
Mm.
Just because you lose something, it's not always negative. It could be a positive way that you're going. And don't always look back and keep regretting. And that, I think this is even hard for us to accept. Don't keep looking back and regretting stuff. I think there was this midwife or whatever they are when they come over and when you have a
Oh,
baby,
visitor.
health visitor, not
Yeah.
midwife. And she said something that really hit a chord. She goes, people, they look back, they look forward, and they never enjoy now.
Yeah.
And I think that is so true. I think I'm starting to do that more and more, talking to people that are going through the stuff that they are. And I am starting to think, okay, I need to start being happy in the now, what I've got now, and start accepting this is what my life is. Not saying that it can't get better. Of course it can, but that's for me to make that change.
And do you know what? I was thinking about this yesterday, and it is a case of, well, actually, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We can aim for X, Y, Z, but you're right, and this is exactly what I was thinking yesterday. So I am going to come to a very similar, well, the same conclusion. Enjoy the journey and not the destination, essentially.
Yeah, I'm going to add something else onto this as well. I don't think that we should be embarrassed of the culturally how we do the tick boxes that we have got these tick boxes, because I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we frame it in our minds. We've even discussed it and we're like, oh, it's like this. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we need to flip that on its head and not be embarrassed to talk to people outside the community and say, for example, we don't encourage our kids to go out and have relationships with other people. But that is not, but if you do that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I think we're navigating our journey. We might change our mind on that,
Hmm.
or that we encourage or force our kids, not literally force, but we encourage
Yes.
our kids to go and get educated. No, we don't encourage that.
Oh
But
no, I didn't mean that. Sorry, I didn't do anything. I was joking. Joking. Yeah, go on.
very PC. But we encourage or make our kids go and get educated. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything wrong with that, and we need to stop saying, "Oh, we done that. It was really bad." That our parents didn't let us at that time. They didn't let us go out with people, and now at uni age, after uni, you're forced to go, and
I
it's not
think
all negative.
to be fair, I think that part is we
Sorry,
haven't
that
hit that.
was.
We haven't hit that certain stages, and we don't realize what our reaction's going to be, whether we agree with what our parents said or not. Our parents don't agree with certain things that they did and said. So it's
We need to accept that they were human as well.
and this it and that's what I want to sort of conclude on. It is essentially the journey and not the destination, because we don't know what the destination essentially is going to be. And on that point, that's goodbye from me.
And that's goodbye from me.